Hello, everybody. My name is Chase Folsom. I'm here with Michael Massie and FloRacing's James Pike. We are here at Martinsville Speedway following the Valley Star Credit Union 300. There's a lot to unpack here, but we got to start with the race winner. Carson Kvapil finally gets it done and finally gets one of these grandfather clocks sitting here behind me. James, you've watched Carson race pretty much his entire racing career. What did it mean to see a guy like him finally get a trophy like that they really deserve?
I feel like it was half Carson finally hitting his potential, but also he wanted this tonight in a way that I don't necessarily think was the case 2 years ago. You go back and you watch 22 and 23. He had a good car. He had a top five car. He's top five in both those Valley Star 300s. Tonight, you could tell, I would say from about lap 50 in the main, that he really, really wanted this one in a year where his attention's been a little bit divided because he has made those starts in the Xfinity Series. But this is one that he had circled pretty much the entire year because it's one of the few things that up to this point he hadn't accomplished in his late model career. Now he finally has a clock to take home, and a very worthy winner, I think, of the clock at that. Had a fantastic car all night, dominated the final 25 lap segment, got a great restart every time he needed one. Now he's in that fabulous list of winners of the Valley Star Credit Union 300.
Absolutely, and he may have done it in possibly his final one, at least for a very long time. That's pending his Xfinity Series future. We'll see on that. Michael, you talked to him after the race. Did he mention anything like that, and what did it mean to him to win this race?
He talked about this race as a crown jewel, and he just noted, you could tell by the size of the entry list. 80 entries for this. He says the most of any race he's gone to, but it almost didn't happen. I mean, the guy was cramping like crazy. And a little bit of this victory, you got to say, is powered by the pickle juice. And let me explain that. The man was cramping. He comes down at the halfway break, and the crew gives him pickle juice and mustard for his cramps. And it gave him enough, it was enough of a remedy for him to go the rest of the way. Great performance. But whatever, he said they just made little tweaks at the halfway point, but that's when the car really came to life, was the second half of the race. He passed Mike Looney and just really never looked back.
Yeah, absolutely. So, fantastic run for Carson. He finally gets the jewel in the crown for his late model career. The guy he had to beat to do it, he raced Mike Looney for a better part of two-thirds of this race, I'd say. Looney came oh so close to getting his second clock. His first one came back in 2016. Massie, you talked to him after the race as well. What did he feel like he could have done better?
Yeah, so Looney he was really fast the first half of the race. He actually passed Kvapil for the lead, won that first stage, got a nice little check, $1,000 check for it. But he thought that, he got out crew chiefed, is the words he used. That Looney tuned his car. You get it? Looney tuned. Tuned his
Don't
car.
copyright us, please.
His car the wrong way. He needed to free it up more at the end, and it just needed to be able to turn it more. And that's where the Kvapil kind of got him. And it's like once Kvapil got around him, that was it. He didn't have enough. It was a noticeable, as fast as Looney was in the first half of the race, it was noticeable how much not fast, because that's a good way to word things, right? Not fast he was in the second half.
Absolutely. Another guy that flew under the radar but ended up with a really solid top 5 result. Fourth for Florence Motor Speedway's track champion, Casey Kelly. James, that's another guy you've followed through his time in South Carolina. What does it mean for, again, a guy like him to come into this field of late model stock car drivers and perform the way he did?
Well, I think it's really special because you look at the lists of drivers that run well in Valley Star, and you look at the top 5s and the top 10s of this race every year. It's a lot of car store people. Peyton Sellers usually features on that. It's either drivers who have a lot of experience competing against some of the biggest drivers of late model stock car racing, or drivers that have really solid programs in or around here. And to have somebody from a place like Florence, which is not the closest racetrack to Martinsville by any stretch of the imagination, come out and put in a big run. In some sense, I think it makes a little bit of sense because Florence, at least so far as banking is concerned, does profile pretty similarly to here. It's shorter. And this track is less abrasive, but it's about the same amount of banking in the corners. So I could see how notes from Florence would work well at Martinsville. I think we saw that tonight. And also for the Kellys, who we know have good Florence programs, to have that kind of strength at a track like this and to show that their program can travel. I mean, the money's going to be great for them, but I think just being able to make a statement like that and saying we can go and we can compete with anybody anywhere speaks to a lot about the strength of that program, especially compared to the resources everybody else has, and a really wonderful run for the Kelly family, I would say.
Absolutely. It's always cool to see kind of one of the family teams take it to the big guns. However, the big guns were kind of lost in all the chaos at the front was the Virginia Triple Crown. Connor Hall came in tonight with a 1.5 average finish through South Boston and Langley. Peyton Sellers had a 3.5 and Cade Brown an 8.5. But early on, trouble for Connor Hall. He got turned around after he was having some mechanical problems. This is kind of in the story of Connor's season the past month and a half or so, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. I talked to him after the race, and he was very frustrated, but, only insofar as you can be when electrical issues pop up and mechanical issues pop up, and they aren't necessarily anyone's fault. They happen every once in a while, right? And he made the point that, every time he comes there, he feels like he has a great car. He said that this was one of the fastest cars he had ever had anywhere. He really, really liked the handle on his Nelson Motorsports machine today. And it just didn't go his way. And he's like, every time I come here, something pops up, something happens. So we think about motivation. We think about how experiences here tend to shape future runs here. Not that we're putting together our previews of the 2025 race this early now, but I'm keeping a very close eye on Connor Hall, because I think with the way that tonight ran for him and the way his Triple Crown ended, I expect him to be very motivated, not only to try and get the Triple Crown next year, but especially to try and come and win this race. I'm hard pressed to think of drivers that are going to want to win this race in 2025 more than Connor Hall.
And he echoed that when I talked to him earlier. The guy that ended up winning the Triple Crown for the record 5th time in the 12 years. Well, that's not even true because they didn't run it in 2020 or 2016. So do the math on that. He's won a lot of them in a little bit of time. Peyton Sellers won his 5th tonight. Didn't have the run he was hoping for tonight, but nonetheless, it was still enough to get the crown at the end.
Right, and I think, Peyton Sellers, I think he's happy he won the Triple Crown, but I think he's more disappointed that he wasn't a bigger factor in this race, as he was plummeting. It's weird, he took the lead pretty early in the race, but then from there he was just plummeting, fell out the top 10. The only reason he finished top 10 is because so many cars wrecked at the end. But still, I'm sure when he goes to cash that check from winning the Triple Crown, maybe he'll be a little happier about it. And, it just shows he really is the market consistency. The guy just doesn't make mistakes. And, it's 3 races. He's the guy you got to beat if you're going to win the Triple Crown.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that there was a point in the final 50 laps where it looked like Cade Brown was actually going to win the Triple Crown. He was running top 3 while Sellers and Hall were struggling. Unfortunately, he got caught up in a late accident. I believe it was Jake Crum knocked him up out of the groove, and then a bunch of them piled in turn 1 and 2. I believe Donnelly went airborne and into the 23.
Somebody on the radio said that he monster trucked.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty good.
That was a pretty accurate description if you guys haven't seen it. So, unfortunate for Cade Brown, such a young guy, to have a shot, not even just at a Triple Crown, but a grandfather clock. He was in contention there at the end, but it just didn't work out for him. Final story from the night. Guy that's got 2 of these things, hasn't raced a late model stock car in 5 years, but made his return to racing tonight, was Lee Pulliam. So, me being the young man I am, didn't get to grow up watching Lee, but both of you guys did. So, I'll start with you, Massie. As a Virginia guy, and Lee dominated so many Virginia tracks, was it cool for you to see him back in the driver's seat tonight?
It was. It's cool anytime any of those legends comes back and races. Even though, he's been out the car, he's got some rust. He wasn't going to win tonight, but still, just to bring it home one piece, still show that he's got a little bit left in the tank. I remember watching the guy race at South Boston and here and, different places around Virginia and stuff, but it really, it gave me a bit of nostalgia watching him go around out there. It made me happy.
Absolutely. And James, for you, you've been coming here for a very long time, and he won the clock here in 11 and 14. Did that bring back any flashbacks, seeing him out there run second in a heat race and 13th overall?
I think the biggest thing is for me when I think about it, it's Lee almost counts as part of a different generation of late model racers. And I think that's such a great way to sort of mark the passage of time and how quickly it moves, even in grassroots racing. But to see him out here and to run, I think for the fans that were here tonight, if you're looking at Lee racing, period, if you never got to see Lee compete in person and you don't remember, especially right around 2010 in that ballpark and his runs here a little bit after, where he was in the mix every single time he got behind the wheel of a race car, it didn't matter whether it was here or Sobo or Langley or anywhere else. Now you can say, I watched Lee Pulliam race. It's sort of like if you've got an artist that's been touring for 50 years and, maybe, the 50-year anniversary tour isn't necessarily the greatest show they've ever put on, but you still get to see them. I think it still means something that you get to see him. And how cool to see that Lee still was pretty competitive, I think, given how much he hadn't had a lot of seat time. But for him to be back and to be mixing it up was neat and I think fun in a lot of the respects you just mentioned.
Yeah, this was the first time I'd ever gotten to see him race, and he mentioned to me afterwards that he's not sure if this is his last time behind the wheel of a race car or even here at Martinsville, but if it is, he's happy with how it went. He's content with having fun with his family, his daughter, and his dad here at the racetrack one more time. So, with all of that, congratulations to Carson Kvapil on winning the Valley Star Credit Union 300. That is going to do it for us at Martinsville Raceway. For Michael Massie and James Pike, I've been Chase Folsom. So long, and we will see you guys at Tri-County Speedway for the Cars Tour race. Hey race fans, I'm Chase Folsom with Frontstretch.com. If you enjoyed the short track video you just watched, please be sure to subscribe to Frontstretch Grassroots on YouTube for more Cars Tour, ARCA, and other grassroots racing content. Check out Frontstretch.com for all your racing needs.